Well, good morning, world, and welcome to the Medium channel where we bring you the spirituality behind the message. And today is tarot time, and we're going to do our weekly tarot forecast, maybe talk a little bit about a few things going on in the world that affect us this week. And the forecast and the information that we derive through the tarot and through my guides are really to help you on your path this week and to help with this community more than anything. So that's really the aim. So I'll do a little, maybe talk a little bit about the tarot, do a meditation card for us that we can work with that will be very succinct to the energies of this week as it applies to our community, specifically you, well, me also. And then do a 3 card spread, and we have Native American cards to add to the divination or the forecast, angel cards, all kinds of divination. We're going to have all kinds of fun. So we're going to get started in just a second. I just like to give the live people a minute or two to get their notification to get on, and I need my water. And are you guys coffee, tea, or caffeine free today? And if you're new, drop us a quick hello. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And of course, if you're watching this as a video, well, welcome anyways. I shouldn't say that. It's kind of like saying like it's better to be live than as a video, but it really isn't. And I'm looking outside and the gray skies are starting to brighten, so we're going to get some sunshine later on. And for those of you that have been following, my latest things that I've been doing and working on, I'm happy because I'm taking 2 weeks off from doing readings and focusing on making online courses. And we're going to film one today. I'm so excited after this and after breakfast. Yes, I've not eaten breakfast yet, unless you consider an orange breakfast. And I'm in a good mood, so you have no excuse. Anyways, I see our expert Sharita Starr is on. She's our expert in numerology and astrology. So interestingly, since you're here, and Mafe is in the Hudson Valley. Well, I'm kind of in the Hudson Valley. I'm in the Catskills, close enough. Since it is the new moon, it was technically yesterday, but the moon is still in the sign Virgo. The sun is in Virgo. So I pulled the Hermit card. See, I have a new setup. If you notice that my image is a little bit brighter and clearer on tarot time than it used to be, that's because I'm using my iPhone as my webcam. I got an app to do that rather than using a webcam, so the color is much better. But I have to get used to it. And this is the Hermit card in the tarot. It's rulership is the sign Virgo. It's key number 9. And for me being a Libra, I mean it's different for everybody. So in my like solar chart, this Virgo would be my 12th house, but that's just the solar chart. We don't really go by that anyway, right, Sharita? Um, Too general and not very accurate. But the interesting thing is that the Hermit kind of tells us to maybe step back a little bit and listen to our own higher wisdom. Now, Virgo is an intellectual sign in a sense because its rulership is Mercury, although some astrologers believe there's actually an undiscovered planet that's the true ruler of Virgo, but we don't know that. So for now, Virgo is the ruler and Virgo is the mind and the intellect, but also Virgo's an earth sign, so it has a feminine vibe, and it's very grounding and very practical. So the Hermit card can represent that practicality. It's kind of like an energy of learning how to open up and listen to our divine wisdom, or to find a teacher, either the teacher within or finding a teacher, and the students ready, the master appears, right? Or the teacher appears. Oh, so you're 9-9, Suzette. That's great. What an amazing birthday. So number 9 is also about completions, but it's also about the planet Mars. So it can be about action also. Warrior 9. Oh, a couple of 9-9s. Wow. So people born on 9/9 are almost always going to be old souls, by the way. 'Cause, 9 is that completion number. It's the last number, and very often these repeating numbers in the birthday, can show soul advancement or soul age. And what Sharita's saying, you must get a personal forecast from the natal info, always from the real raw details. Horoscopes are helpful, but you are missing a great portion of your timing story. Exactly, Sharita. Great point. And you're free to contact Sharita. She does charts. She does readings and all that stuff, and helping guide us through this very bumpy road. So what's been in the news lately? I actually jotted down a couple things that came up. Well, a very important story came out of Australia this week, by the way, about a high school girl that's really a cat. I don't know how to explain this one, but she's doesn't identify with being a human. She identifies with being a cat. And therefore in school she doesn't speak because cats meow, they don't speak. And this is apparently a trend that's been developing around the world, but for some reason Australia, I don't know. I saw this on my news feed, and one of the things that they said about this girl is that she's actually highly intelligent. I'm thinking in my mind, but intelligent for a human or intelligent for a cat. But this has become a trend, and other students are identifying with animals, and some of them are even cutting out an extra hole in their genes for their tails. I kid you not. So, it was basically like not wanting to identify with one specific gender, whether it be male or female. Now it's kind of like not identifying with one particular species. So I have a feeling that that's a statement on society somehow. So that came up. So what else? Well, there was an FBI raid of our former president's residence down in Florida. This was mere days after I did my August psychic forecast predicting that there's going to be renewed controversy around Donald Trump and that he was going to be in the news again. Literally days later, I think it was 2 or 3 days after I did that, they raided that. Now, interestingly, of course, I don't know the details, but this can result in anything from, in my opinion anyway, that our former president, or maybe I should say what forces are behind him, may actually have been planning a coup of the government. I mean, that you have to look at this and say that that's at least possible. We don't know. So there's that possibility on one extreme, and another possibility on another extreme is that certain other factions of government or rulership. I see the sun coming out. Yay! Right in tarot time. Um, is so nervous about him being reelected in 2024 that this could be something that undermines that. And one of the three charges that came up, one is the Espionage Act, which basically is like being a spy, but that's a very vague law, and a lot of whistleblowers have been accused of that. Um, but in any event, to make a long story short, it could be a move by those that oppose the former president to prevent him from running, or anything in between. We don't really know it, but this is a huge kind of developing story that's going on. That to me is all part of the breakdown to break through that's happening in the United States right now in this current Pluto return. That things that are unsustainable need to break down. Part of it could be, how presidents are elected, the electoral or public offices, how laws are put into practice. That 80% of the laws, although they're called, what are they called? I can't remember the name. Um, um, Gosh darn, I hate when that happens. It happens a lot on a Sunday morning. What can I say? But 80% of the bills that are passed are not from elected officials, they're from appointed officials, basically. That a lot of you know that, but it's worth noting that in a so-called democratic society, most of our laws don't come from our elected officials. And then we're finding more and more, as time goes on, this isn't new. This is is well before Trump even thought about running for office, that there have been issues with the whole like polling processes and going back to uh, Bush Carey. There was actually videos of people being turned away from polling areas in Democratic districts of swing states. Basically, I mean, it's all footage. It's all available. Yet people are still denying it. But anyway, I digress. So I apologize. So anyway, that's in the news. Also the student loan forgiveness is coming. A lot of mixed reviews about that. So that's been going on. Recently. Um, since it was revealed that Biden had the lowest approval rating of any president ever. I think I forgot what it was. It was under 40% for a while. It's come up a little bit since, actually. So he's no longer in that territory, from my understanding. And then a terrorist leader that had been tracked for years was captured and killed. What else happened? Gasoline prices have suddenly come down a good deal, and now the student loan forgiveness, and so all this stuff is happening, and right at the same time, the president's approval rating was at an all-time low right before the midterms, where the amount of seats that go to Democrats or Republicans can really change this November. So I mean, all this is happening and it's all overlapping. Now, is it happening? Is this like an intentional thing, or is this just a coincidence, like a happy coincidence that all of a sudden, like the student loan thing was a campaign promise that took almost 2 years to be fulfilled right at this time. So I'm not saying that one has anything to do with another, but we have to be aware of the art of technology and how the elite powers of the world, those that control the money and the power, do things, and how the media and the government and the big corporations that lobby the governments are all connected and all together. So that that doesn't mean that the media is always lying, and that good hardworking reporters and anchor people are there to deceive the public. That's not the case. But that said, they're you have to kind of look at things sort of how things are worded and how things are presented, and and that's where the technology comes in. So things come out that may not be false or fake, but it's twisted just enough to to give the public a whole different impression of what the news is. I don't know if that makes sense, but in any event, so Sharita's just pointing out that Trump is a Gemini. So that's interesting. So we had that last week. The Dow dropped 1,000 points in a day after God, what's his name? Anyway, after the Feds, you talked about that they're going to need to continue to raise the prime rate to curb inflation, basically. So that was all predicted, also, by the way. So anyway, in today's direct aspect, we have Venus and Saturn in opposition at I believe 20 degrees of Leo and Aquarius, respectively. So 20 degrees can be a big awakening number in numerology. So it's interesting, with Venus, which tends to relate to our heart and our money and stuff like that, and Saturn can be those hard lessons and that grounding influence and everything. So that's the direct aspect of today. So or money. So Michael's talking about printing more and more money, and that increases the debt. The economy, it's a debt-based economy that we have. So the strength of the economy really depends on people being in debt, which again, is very bad for our personal wealth, and it's very bad for the wealth of the country as well as the world, basically. So I could go more and more into that, but let's dive into a little bit of tarot stuff. Well, we did talk about the Hermit card already. So that's the card of the day. Let's do a meditation card. So thanks, Sarita, for adding to that. Yeah, what's the that's kind of what I was alluding to about the whole thing about tricknology, and I learned that term from actually my first martial arts teacher, who I had this crazy awakening in 1978, and what it was just in a flash, and I knew that everything I thought was real was a lie, and I've explained that before, but and I don't want to spend too much time explaining that now, but I had this teacher who was an ex Panther Party member. Which again, this goes back to the whole thing about technology and the press and the media. The Panther Party is better known as the Black Panthers, and a lot of you've heard of them. They were basically an activist group, and were painted by the media to be a militant group, but that really wasn't where they were coming from. See, my teacher knew people like Huey Newton and Eldridge Cleaver, the founders of that, and he's very adamant to say, we were the Panther Party. It's the press that called us the Black Panthers, not us. And that became basically what people knew them as. But that was not the name that they gave for themselves. That was the media. And um, and I had something, I got in trouble. Gosh, I was in my 20s. I don't want to talk too much about it. Um, but I became a victim of misinformation and misrepresentation and technology from the media. And all they did was they left out one word of a story, about something that had happened that involved me, basically, that was not good. And by leaving out just one word, changed the whole narrative of that story. So you can look at that and say, well, this is what happened. The news is portraying this accurately, but no, that they cleverly use language to twist the whole meaning of it around. And that's what happens. That's how we get misled. That's how we get programmed by the media. And it's all connected to the big corporations that are doing very well in the pandemic, by the way, and the governments. So again, be aware of these things that are happening. That's the main thing. A lot of the energy that's happening now is going to bring more and more stuff up to the surface, basically. And again, I say this a lot: don't overcomplicate things. I do not really talk about or buy into the conspiracy theory so much because I just don't know. What I do know is that there is a corruption that is very prevalent in the society. It's being shown in many ways. It does not have to necessarily have to do with green aliens or reptilians. It might, but I don't know. You see, I don't have enough information to validate that. And when the master teachers come through, they don't talk about that so much. And for those of you that don't know, this is a group that I channel that works with other, apparently from what they bring through, that works with other star systems and other groups of people, from other planets or other dimensions that are in an evolutionary and awakening cycle. So they come through to help raise our frequencies and help us with our awakening. But they don't talk about things like reptilians and stuff like that so much. So again, I don't know if that's true or not. There is evidence to support it. I'll put it out that way. But the point being is that we don't have to get into all these unproven theories. We can just look at basic reality and follow the money and follow the corrupt flow of power, and that's how you're going to uncover the truth. Very, very simple. Who's benefiting from what's going on? And I'll leave it at that for now. Yes, thanks, Pauline, for sharing that. Yes, Heather did a very beautiful new moon for us. I was busy. I couldn't join this time. uh, so, yeah, thanks, Sharita. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely conspiracy fact, and some conspiracy theories prove to be conspiracy fact. Others don't. Um, again, the problem being is the lack of transparency, the lack of a democratic process, or I don't know if democratic's the right word, because that's a charged word in today's society. Uh, but in any event, democracy. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. So I guess that would be democratic. Yeah, democracy. So anyway, there's some people who can purely channel. Yeah. So somebody asked me about if Heather has a channel. She did hers on Zoom basically. All right. So again, follow the money. Yeah. So talk about the democracy or whatever. These conspiracy theories get fostered through the lack of transparency that in our governments. We're not told the truth. Things are hidden from us, and then when that happens, what are people supposed to think? That's how a lot of this gets born. And I think Micah was also pointing out that a lot of channels do have remarkable consistency in terms of what's going on through like other planetary forces, other dimensions, extraterrestrial groups and stuff like that. And I've had my own experiences. I don't disbelieve that. I just don't want to deal with anything that's unproven. And there's plenty of very tangible, validatable, earthly, provable facts to validate a lot of the problems and challenges that may be conspiracies or once conspiracies in our effect. I don't know if that makes any sense. But anyway, let's do our 3-card spread. Let's keep on trucking. Yes. Thank you, Laura, for that also. Okie doke. So mixing cards up. Let's do our 3-card spread for the week now. Let's do our meditation card first. We like to do that also. So this is the one that I pulled. So this is what I got for meditation cards. We kind of went off the trend a little bit of getting the major arcana today, but aces are very cool because they represent new beginnings, and the Ace of Swords can represent ideas also. So meditating with tarot, get present, like any other meditation, get very present, very very grounded, very present. And then in your mind, visualize the card, treat this as a window or a doorway, step into the card. When you step in, feel the energy. That's the first step. So it's almost like going into one reality into another. So that's what doors are about. When my son was a baby, he was really fascinated with doors and loved to open and close doors. And I just got that, in his mind, this was like stepping into one reality, into a whole new world or a whole new reality. He was really fascinated by that. So I have a new camera set up, so I have to put this in a different place for you guys to see this. This is the Hanson Roberts deck. So when you step into this reality, feel the energy, and then see what else you can see. There's a whole panoramic view around the Ace of Swords. So see what else that you can see, and maybe you'll get some messages. Swords can represent air. They can represent ideas. The Ace of Swords can represent truth. Notice it's like there's a laurel above, so that can be a victory. So you may get information from Spirit of how you can be victorious in something going on in your life with that. The camera is better. Yeah, it's much better, right? Than it was. I mean, the thing with webcams is they handle color very poorly, so you can actually see what color, what my real skin looks like. All right. So in any event, so we're gonna ask Sharita to come back sometime in September to give us an autumn update with the Mercury retrograde that's starting on the 10th, the Mars retrograde, which we're in the approach of already. So Mars is already slowing down, getting ready to go retrograde. That, I believe, starts on October 30th or thereabouts. So happy Halloween, everybody. But Mercury's already slowing down, and Mercury being the planet of movement, when it starts to slow down, we feel it. So we feel the retrograde before it happens. Now, if I'm not mistaken, in astrology, the approach is when Mercury hits that degree point where okay, I'm having a hard time. I mean, I know what I'm trying to say, but I'm having a hard time putting it to words. Like it hits the degree point where it comes back to once the retrograde's on them. Anyway, in my way of thinking, it starts to slow down. The planetary movement starts to slow down. And Sharita may, if she's in a good mood, explain that a little better for us. Technically, what the beginning of the approach means. That happened last week, I believe. But anyway, the planet of movement starts to slow down. Things bog down. The planets are part of collective consciousness, so we can understand what's happening in the vibrational field by looking at the planets, looking at the numbers. That's why Spirit gave us these tools and gave us these representations of the movement and the flow of energies that affects us and affects everybody. So if you know how to read the movement and the aspects of the planets, you know how to understand what's going on with the energy, and thereby what to do to plan your life, basically, and plan your activity. So it's a really, really valuable tool. And as Sharita pointed out, there's a universal movement that affects everybody, but our natal chart and our natal numerology chart is the snapshot of our energy when we came into the world. It shows us what our gifts, what our challenges are, and what our path is in this lifetime. And if we're able to understand that and follow that, then we're going to accomplish the most we can in this lifetime. We're going to learn and grow as much as we can. We're going to be better equipped and tools to handle the challenges of life that's inevitable, while being able to embrace our gifts and develop our gifts also. So that's really part of that. And we're coming into an eclipse season soon also. So a lot's going on in the autumn. It's going to be a very volatile and changeable. We've been talking about this a while, that everything that's been happening is sort of a warm up to this autumn and the next winter season. That should be kind of the grand crescendo of this. And then, of course, there's going to be more to come, through 2024 and beyond. So anyways, a lot going on. Yes. So meditate. You may get some really good ideas. So let's do a 3-card spread now. And so I just mentioned that is on election day. Something's happening on election day that doesn't sound too good. Anyways. All right, so clearing mind, asking Spirit to give me the right card for our week. And here we go. So this is pretty darn interesting from where I'm sitting. All right. So the cards are the 9 of Wands. They're all forward today, not are upright today. 9 of Wands, 4 of Pentacles, and the 9 of Swords. So we talked about, we're in the 9th month now also. We talked about key 9 earlier, the Hermit. So apparently one of the main messages for this week from Spirit is that 9 is a key player for this community. That's everybody that's watching us that's with us here live or that's going to watch this as a video later on. You're part of this community for right now. Number 9 completes the cycles in numerology. Number 9 is aligned with the energies of the planet Mars. That's an action planet. So in a way, I look at 9 as kind of like this number of endings. It's I guess more of a feminine vibe since it's an odd color. Then it's got this really masculine Mars energy around it. It's very energetic. It's very powerful. It's very much, in my way of thinking, about change and again completing the old and being willing to and being open to releasing and letting things go, understanding that our human survival instinct, which a lot of it's our ego and the part of our ego that we hide from ourselves, that hides in the subconscious, basically does not want or like change because it's a survival instinct. We survive based on predictability, and this is just in our genetics, it's in our subconscious makeup, that if things are predictable we feel much more comfortable, and we feel our survival instinct is very satisfied. When we end and change things, or when things change and end, it becomes a threat to our survival instinct, and there's resistance. It's usually subconscious resistance. That's why it is so hard to change habits. That's why it's so hard to let go. That's why it's so hard to embrace new things. You are basically working against your own survival instinct. So, what you have to understand is that you are the mind, you are the will, basically, and you can apply your will and override your animalistic survival instinct. And that is what we need to do. We've needed to do this for a while, but it's becoming very, very clear as things goes on that we have to be willing and able to do this. In other words, address the unhealthy habits. A lot of it's subconscious because again, our survival instinct, our subconscious mind does not want to let go of that. It feels it's a threat to our very survival. So we have to be willing to go within the subconscious to understand what it is we're holding on to, because we may not know that. And the ego is very clever at hiding in the subconscious. It's basically the coyote in the Native American. We're going to get to the Native American deck in a second. So how do we pierce that? We do that through presence, through meditation, by learning to be present in every moment that we're aware to be present. So I can talk and I can be aware of my breathing and still be aware of what's going on around me. And you can also. So we are, again, because it's part of our habits. Habits are hard to change because our habits we feel comfortable with is to be in internal dialogue constantly, to be in that monkey chatter constantly, which basically makes us very hyper vigilant on our thoughts, but cuts us off from spirit, cuts us off from our power, cuts us off from our divinity. When we stop our thoughts and we become present, we expand into spirit. And if you augment that with heart brain coherence, or in other words, becoming coherent in the heart by feeling gratitude, compassion, and love, and feeling that overtaking the brain energy, or because the heart energy is more powerful than the brain, 60 times more to be exact, according to studies. Um, um, that's how you're going to be able to overcome the habit. So in this 9 energy, we're seeing a lot of 9s today. Complete the old habits. Spend this week, especially the next couple of days while the moon is still new, to really go within and identify whatever the unhealthy patterns are, like what's coming up repetitively in your life, what thought patterns keep coming up that diminish you in whatever way, whether it's like, I'm, whatever it is that I don't have enough money, or I'm not good enough, or I'm too young, or I'm too old to fulfill my dreams, or it's hopeless. Look what's going on in the world. It's never hopeless. Once you have spirit, then you have hope. And that's not that whole thing about hopium, or just being, that would be the 2 of swords, and that didn't come up. Like being, having hope just by being blinded to the truth of what's going out there. It's just understanding that there's a greater purpose. It's not being in denial of what's going on in the world, but rather finding the deeper meaning and where the spiritual value is in all the heartache and all the challenge that we're dealing with. Again, we're in an awakening. The old systems are not sustainable. They're not fair. 99.99% of the people suffer at the hand, where less than 0.01% of the people benefit from the way things are being done. It's just falling apart. It's just natural human evolution that's causing that, basically. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And Sharita's cluing us in on moon void, of course, and the impact of that. So, Nine of Rods can be about preparedness, being ready. The bandages is psychic wounding. We've had a lot of emotional, psychological wounding in this lifetime and other lifetimes. We carry ancestral pains and cultural pains from people that are no longer alive. We carry wounds from our childhood. We carry wounds from being programmed in a way that our hearts know it goes against who we are as spirit and what we know intrinsically. So it creates a rift in our consciousness that leaves us wide open to disease, that leaves us wide open to being programmable by the forces that be. So this is the time to sit back, to go into meditation and start to heal those psychic wounds. Get present, open the heart. It's not that hard. The reason that it's hard is when you do that, then the filters between the conscious and subconscious dissolve, and all the suppressed pain and trauma starts to rise to the surface. It gets uncomfortable. We immediately run back to our old habits where we bring comfort, or we grab a bottle of booze or a cigarette or whatever it is. We have to learn to override that. Remember, you are the will. The will is stronger than the body and the mind because it taps into universal mind. It taps into who you are as spirit. You are spirit. Spirit is stronger. So remember that. That, I believe, is what these cards are saying. The Four of Pentacles wants to hold on to things, wants to keep everything close. It's like hoarding, like this. I have to keep this because this might get taken away. Now, on one hand, I think that they're telling us stock up. We've been talking about this for months now. People say, well, I haven't seen the food shortages. Well, you have, because you're paying a lot more at the grocery store right now. Your basic economics, supply and demand, supply uh, goes down, prices go up. Basically, we're seeing a lot of empty shelves, although it's not critical, at least here in the Hudson Valley. I don't know about Arkansas or Tennessee or Idaho. I don't know what's going on there. It may be worse there for all that I know. But again, have what you need just in case. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. This is a fluid situation. We're consciousness. We are creating this earth change and this change in consciousness as we go along. People like Sharita, myself, and others will give you the news and give you the what's going on, what the stars are showing us, what spirit is telling us, or whatever. But we can change that trajectory through consciousness. And what I found a lot of is that things that have been forecast from the past, they've happened, but they haven't been as bad in some cases as what was forecast. Good. Let's hope that continues, but prepare for the worst. I want to say. Um, and then the sign of swords, this is another nine. Swords is about air. Swords can be about strife. The person is up there. They're kind of like anxious, right? They're not sleeping. A lot on their mind, a lot on their plate, basically. Um, Anytime you feel overwhelmed, you feel the anxiety of the world around, you don't even have to listen to the news. You can feel it. If you're a sensitive person, you feel the stress because you're not separate from that. So again, we have to go into presence, go get present, expand the frequencies of the heart. Then the heart becomes coherent. Our hearts are incoherent because we're bombarded by fear, stress, anxiety all the time. The average American lives in stress 60 to 70% of their days. We're only supposed to feel stress if there's a threat to our survival, a real threat, not news, not social media. That's not a real threat to our survival. That's a program threat. But our physiology responds the same way as if it was a real threat. And we go into stress hormone. That gets us very hyper vigilant in the moment so we can deal with the threat at hand, but at the expense of our expansion into spirit. And the heart becomes very incoherent because it needs to deal with the threat in the moment. It needs to respond to what's going on right in this moment. But again, I don't know if I'm explaining this as well as I could Sunday morning, but I think you guys get the idea. So when you start to expand the frequency of the heart and start to feel gratitude, appreciation, compassion, and love, that's what hearts do. That's when hearts are at their most coherent, and that's when the energetic wave pattern of the heart is at its optimal. When that happens, it joins the brain. The brain and the heart become disconnected through these stress hormones. Also, it reconnects, and basically, when that happens, then you tap into your higher self. You tap into your higher intuition. You tap into your higher abilities to heal yourself. To manifest your reality. Like all these things happen when you start to bring your heart back into coherency, and you don't feel the stress anymore. You feel love, you feel compassion. Consciously do that. That's what my first course is going to be about. I'm calling it something to the effect of magnified heart brain coherence, which is what I'm going to teach in my first course, which we're going to film today. I've got all the notes. They're all around me right now. You can't see them, luckily. So anyhow, that's basically, I think, the message of that. So, what's going on in the world, we may feel like something else going on financially, more stock market stuff, more recession stuff. I feel like this is showing us more news around global events like wars or stuff like that, and the news coming out of how that's going to pinch us in here in the United States or in the West. If you're not American, like what's going on in places like Ukraine and Russia, the Middle East, and stuff like that. How that's creating more economic pressures and more personal pressures. So I think we're going to hear about that. If to me it feels like the energy is getting very, very tense. I think there's going to be a lot of explosiveness. So, violence may be increasing. Um, a lot of civil unrest. We don't hear or see a lot of what's going on in the news. Again, that's sort of the technology. They pick and choose what the public is going to see. There's so much news out there. We don't see a lot about the demonstrations, but they're happening. When the freedom truckers were gaining a lot of publicity, the narrative, got changed in the media, and you heard nothing about them again. But they didn't disappear or go away. In fact, their movement spread to other countries. We did not hear about that. So there is an agenda. They want people to think a certain way and believe a certain thing, so that again, the select few can benefit by and taking taxpayers' dollars to fulfill that, to make that happen, basically. So Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, they're under contract for a long war. How did they know the Ukraine war was going to be long when it started? I don't know, but they contracted them and paid them, for a long war, basically. Um, Pharmaceutical companies are doing very, very well. Tech companies doing very well. Um, everything connected to um, the Bill Gates Foundation. They fund a lot of the I forgot the name of the company, but one of the primary companies that regulates the vaccines and distributions of vaccines. Bill Gates Foundation is a primary donator to that. The WHO, Bill Gates, and now buying farmland when econ- ecological measures that should have come 40 years ago are starting now. are basically, pinching out the smaller farmers. But the Bill Gates Foundation and other big corporations already have dibs on the land for future farming and how that's going to look. So it's, if you put it all together, the end game is really about centralizing, and the centralized powers again are those same elite that have been in control for a long time. So again, this all ties into the energy that I'm feeling with this, and it's really telling us to, anytime we feel like anxious and fearful, we really need to go into present, really need to work with the heart. When you're in the heart vibration, you're in the eye of the storm because you only know compassion and love. You can't hate, you can't be afraid of others, you can't hold on to things that happened 40 years ago when your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend cheated on you. You just can't hold those grudges anymore, because you're in a vibration that it's impossible to do that. The more you can be in the heart frequency, the better off you're going to be. And remember, as hard as it is, this is one of the best times to be alive, because we're witnessing changes that we've never witnessed before in at least this cycle of human evolution. I mean, we don't know what happened with humans 30, 40, 50,000 years ago. There may have been a hugely advanced society back then that went back into cave people. We understand through, and this the drought that's going on with the weather and everything, it's uncovering like ancient artifacts. It's really amazing that we're discovering, we're going deeper and deeper into our past and understanding more and more that humans are not on a linear trajectory of evolution. It's a circular trajectory. So there's periods where humans got very evolved and then they de-evolved. So there's been these cycles over the last 200,000 years that modern humans have been on the planet. So basically, that's what I get from that. So I think we're going to get a lot, more economic news that's going to be challenging. I think we're going to, yes, more things are going to be uncovered. There are whistleblowers. I've seen bits and pieces of an interview with Kim Iverson um, that was very eye opening, and other people that were part of the media. I forgot the name of her show. The Hill, was it? Or but she basically stepped down because she was, one of the issues was she was not um, permitted to interview Anthony Fauci, basically, like and she felt that was basically like a form of censorship, so she stepped down basically. And there's been a lot of like whistleblowers and stuff like that. And by the way, speaking of him, you may recall way back in February, March, I did this whole live stream about Anthony Fauci and about him stepping down, and then I that was part of other forecasts that I did. Now it's being called retirement, but there's a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of things again that have been swept under the rug of the media. Basically, something that would have gotten my videos taken down several months ago, which is the lab leak theory, is now one of the most plausible theories out there. And virologists from around the world, top virologists, were emailing Anthony Fauci, and this is all out. It's hard to find, but this information is out, and it's basically poo-poo, like that was impossible. But meanwhile, it'll. And I'm not saying this definitely happened because I don't know all the facts, but if you put all the pieces of the puzzle together, like not no infected bats at the Wuhan market, a lab that researches coronaviruses a mere miles away. Put it all together. How can you ignore that as a possibility? I mean, whether it's true or not, how can you ignore that as a possibility and then censor the news and then censor social media? And then months later saying, oh, well, maybe, it could have happened. We don't think it did, but it could have happened. And then the censorship is done. But so anyway, so I think we get the idea. I point being is there's usually more to the story. I think there is more to the story with what's going on with Fauci, what's going on with things that happened during the pandemic. that basically companies like Amazon were very happy about the lockdowns. And, again, look at who benefits from these things. And then look at the science behind it. Were there other alternatives in dealing with the pandemic, knowing that it was coming, knowing, having an idea of what it is and what it was and how it spreads? Was the way they did it the only way, or could they have come up with a better way? To me, it was very barbaric and very archaic, in my opinion, the way it happened. Something needed to be done. Yeah, lockdowns, but again, look at the whole. Look at who benefits from these choices and decisions. Understand that large companies lobby Congress to pass laws that benefit these corporations. This is just how it's done. It's not a conspiracy. It's just how government works. It's just how it works right now. So anyway, so thank you for that. So I know this is going to be a long one today. So let's move right. Actually, I'm going to keep these up. I think, the reason that I'm speaking the way that I am, I think that this is the beginning of a process where lots going to open up. I think, these retrogrades that are coming up and everything is really, it's going to really it's all going to explode in the autumn and the winter. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I think, the card is saying, get ready, prepare yourself emotionally, not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically, and accept that life may change over the next few months. Our lives may change a lot. Be okay with that and be prepared for that. Again, hope for the best, but prepare for, there's some eventuality of change. And I feel like they're basically urging us to really have a handle on our money, and maybe even consider where you want to invest your money, what investments you want to come out of. Do you want your money in a bank account versus something else? Always have some cash on hand just in case you can't access money. Part of the whole centralization thing is that the banks become centralized, and then if you step out of line with with the coming, the vaccine passports, the coming social credit score or whatever, they those that control things, those that centralize things, will have the power to seize your bank account and to have control of your money also. So it's not a bad idea to always have some cash on hand just in case you can't get to your money for whatever reason. Yeah, being prepared, learning how to grow food, learning who your local, growers are, all that stuff may be relevant. It may come to us needing to learn how to survive in a more of a communal setting than relying on like the big companies to distribute our food and goods for us. You got a breakdown on that level is possible. Just be prepared. It may not happen to that level, but it's definitely possible. And it's good to know that. And the other part of that, it's good to have these tools and this knowledge. You can be independent if you choose to be of the trends in society, because again, it's going to be more about centralization and control. Things developing with artificial intelligence, with the metaverse, and all that. You may not want to be led in that direction. You may want to stay in your solidarity. Is that the right word? Sovereignty, to pursue more organically your spiritual path and your path in life. But you'll need to know how to survive out of that grid to be able to do that. And again, so as this Mars and this duality sign of Gemini continues over the next 7 months or so, the splits in society are likely to get more profound and pronounced. So if you are more going to be not in the mainstream, but more in the other sectors of society, it's going to be going back into more of a communal way of living, but backwards can be forwards also. It's not like going back in terms of de-evolving. It's just utilizing these methodologies of societies that can actually work on a larger scale if it's done properly. So in any event, so what are the Native Americans saying? Well, they're saying defiance. Look what number we pulled here. I'm going to put this really close. And for anybody that's new, no, this is not planned. This is all random. This is all from spirit. Number 9. 9 is the completion. It's the ending, but it's also Mars. It's also power. Mars is the god of war. Remember that also as part of that. Defiance, right? It's like everything that we're talking about. Those of us, I don't want to say in the know because that's a little bit arrogant, but those of us that are more, we'll just say, connected to source or spirit or following in that path, have an inner knowing. And this could be all of us. I mean, all we have to do is just step out of the programming for a minute, and then we know that it's wrong. We know that something's wrong right off the bat, and as more and more happens, more and more defiance is likely. So again, I think this is another way of saying we're likely to start to see some inklings of more resistance, which could be civil unrest. And it just appears that everything that's happening potentially could lead to some kind of I don't want to say civil war, revolutionary war, but trend in that direction. And again, going back to what happened both January 6th and then the raids in President Trump's home in Florida. I mean, was he hiding, top secret kind of defense, documents and stuff like that in an effort for some kind of an organized overthrow? Or is it really just something akin to what presidents have done? We have to remember there's also the emails of Hillary Clinton. There's also Hunter Biden's laptop and our current president's involvement in these business deals, basically. And both that and our former president had business dealings in China. That being Donald Trump, which is said to be the biggest enemy of the free world. Yet the free world openly trades with China. Again, we have to understand like why. What is the structure? Why is this happening? Why are we afraid of a country and their ideologies? Yet we continued for 70 years now to trade openly with them. Basically, again, things to look at. I don't know all the answers, but defiance, this fits in very well. Hold your ground, hold your truth. Sometimes defiance can be passive resistance. It doesn't necessarily have to be going to war or whatever, and stuff like that. So anyway, let me do what add some wisdom from the annals with that also. Who is actually the instigator? Thank you, Sharita, for adding to that. Yeah. Interesting here. Yeah, look at Sharita's last comment. That's really interesting. Yeah, Neptune's been very active lately. I'm not nearly as up on things as Sharita, which is why we have her on the channel to give her the expert, give us the expert commentary. But that's all very interesting. So we got the owl. I've been very into owl medicine lately. So that's not a 9. That's actually 21. Owls are sometimes called the night eagle. So the energy of owl helps us navigate the hidden or the darkness or the night, so to speak. Yeah, thank you, Sharita. She's just saying how non-compliance is a form of defiance. Yeah, and I think that's really the more people that don't comply, the better, because the more we're going to resist any negative control and stuff like that. So let me. Oh, good. I do have the book. So owl medicine. Owls often associated with mediumship, with death and dying, but they're the night eagles, is how I see the owls. Let me see what the book is saying, if I can find the page. 21 L is deception. Interesting, deception. Yeah, these themes, right? On tarot time, there's always these themes. So owl medicine is symbolically associated with clairvoyance, astral projection, and magic, both black and white. Owl is called night eagle on several medicine wheels used by American Indian teachers. Traditionally, owl sits in the east, the place of illumination. Since times immemorial, humanity has been afraid of the night, the dark, and the unseen, waiting fearfully for the first crack of morning light. Conversely, night is owl's friend. Owl hunts its prey at night. Anyway, you get the idea. There's a little poem here that says, Owl, magic omens, time and space. Does the truth emerge, casting out deception, silent flight, sacred medicine bird? No, anyway, this will help us navigate the hidden and the night. So embrace the owl medicine. Um, yes. I've been talking a lot about owls all week also, Sharita, and I even posted an owl on Facebook and on YouTube also as a part of an ad for one of my events also. So it's interesting. I wish I could partake more in your conversation. Yeah, I always saw Trump as almost like a symbol or an agent more than anything. And speaking of Donald Trump, and when he was elected, I mean, I didn't vote for him. I don't like him. I don't agree with him. Most of the stuff. I mean, there's exceptions, but I tell people, give him a chance. Let's see what this is really about. Because I really felt like he was sort of planted to really stir things up and deepen the divide. And then I felt like in 2020, he was prevented from winning, whether he legitimately won the election or not. We'll probably never know the truth, and people will think that they know, but nobody really does know, exactly what happened with that. We do know it was very, very close. We do know no matter what that given the 4 years prior to 2020, that close to half of Americans were willing to give him 4 more years over what the Democrats offered the American public, and that to me that says a lot. And to me, Trump coming into office meant those that were belligerent assholes had more resolve to be belligerent assholes. So I just saw the difference in people's attitudes in 2016, and I just did not like it. I mean, I know that's not a very political reason to not like the president, but just like the air of arrogance and the air of not caring about the little person and all the stuff that went on. I personally did not like, but that said, because the political system is so broken and Trump represented a non-political leader and somebody that's honest, to a fault a lot of time, but that's honest. I mean, how many presidents would come out and say fake news and challenge the media? And people really like that. So it really brought out that defiant nature in people that knew things were wrong, and how he got such a strong backing, in my opinion. So come 2020, I think he was too powerful, and they, even if he won by a landslide, they would not have let him come in office. I could be completely wrong, so don't get up in arms if you don't agree with this. This is just pure conjecture on my part, nothing more. But the point being is that there's an agenda behind politics. There really is no right wing and left wing. It's just part of the same dirty, corrupt bird, basically, in my opinion. And it's always going to swing Democrat to Republican to Democrat until they evolve and get past this archaic dualistic two-party system that's basically not really allowing any real progress to be done, in my opinion. Only my opinion. So anyway, Al will help us to see through the darkness. Yes. So never trust an astrologer who ever said Hillary is going to win. They have no. Yeah. The only good astrologers that I know, well, Sharita being one of them, did not predict Hillary was going to win, by the way. Just to put that out there. So let's end up with a little message from the angels to finish off here. All right, so so you renounce politics. Good for you, Suzette. Welcome, welcome to the dark side. No, just kidding. Here we go. This is interesting. So I got Ray. This is the yogi. Yoga and exercise are essential to your well-being, peace of mind, and spiritual growth right now. I think the angels just want to remind us, going deeper into your spirituality is the solution, to what's going on in the world. Whether it's personal issues, a lot of people lost their jobs. Some voluntarily stepped down because they didn't want to do the vaccinations. And then recently they rescinded the laws, and I think it's up to more state or even local governments, but it's not necessarily mandated. Like these, in other words, it's kind of like an admission, like, well, maybe we were wrong or exaggerated things. We really didn't need to do this or to be that extreme about it or whatever. But anyways, there's a point to me saying that. I don't have the point in my head anymore. But anyway, the point of this card is take care of yourself and to really work with your spirituality. And that's really the underlying. We can't help what goes on in politics. Things are going to need to play out. When you talk about politics, when I talk about it, it's really a gross generalization. There's really some good politicians out there that want to make a difference, that want to improve the system or whatever. So, again, let's be a little careful about generalizations also. And so Sharita's giving us a lexigram of politicians. So they are all wings of the same bird. Absolutely, yeah. So do your yoga, do your meditation, do your spiritual work. This is what we need. This is the anchor, or the buoy that's going to keep us afloat. Maybe that's a better word. This is the buoy that's going to keep us afloat in these stormy emotional seas of the world right now, and the changes in politics and the changes of leadership and the control and all that stuff. This is the buoy that's going to keep us afloat during all these emotional storms, these ups and downs. Do your meditation, do your presence, do your heart brain coherence or equivalent practice. Very, very, very important right now. Yes. So, love to you all. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry we did an extra long session this morning. Now I'm going to eat breakfast. So thank you, everybody, and be well. I love you, and we'll see you next time.